Sit down and strap in. I have a disgusting and disgraceful conversation to have with you right now on this edition of Keeping It Real with me, Alex Cardinale. As you may know, I am a lifelong WWE fan. And for a while, I had a lot of respect for Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who is the owner and founder of the WWE up until 2022. Vince McMahon bought the then WWF from his father in the late 1980s, and he transformed it into the WWE, where it became the global phenomenon that it is now. WrestleMania is bigger than the Super Bowl, and WrestleMania attracts hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world. Plus, Vince created SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and other successful events, and he created great superstars like The Rock, John Cena, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Bret Hart, and many other great Hall of Famers and superstars, including Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. However, I lost a lot of respect for Vince McMahon because of these accusations that came out in 2022 and now in 2024. I'm going to be honest with you. When I first read these accusations, I thought this lady was just trying to get some money from a billionaire, and I thought she was trying to get some publicity. But the new acquisitions that have come out towards Vince McMahon, I'm really believing that he is a sick individual, and he actually did this to that poor women. So, on this episode of Keeping It Real with Alex Cardinale, we're going to talk about the disgusting Vince McMahon sex scandal. Vince McMahon is a disgusting, disgruntled pervert. Now, this sex scandal is also going to include former WWE employee John Laurinaitis, who was the head of talent relations for the WWE. He is known for people power, but he actually is pervert power. This accusation also includes a superstar who was both a WWE and UFC superstar, and the only superstar that is a WWE, UFC superstar that was signed was Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is also part of this disgusting scandal. So we're going to talk about that right now, and we're going to talk about the very beginning. So we're going to talk about the entire Vince McMahon sex scandal right now. So the sex scandal started in 2022. Former employee Janel Grant sued the company, Vince McMahon, and former head of talent relations John Laurinaitis, alleging sexual assault, trafficking, and emotional abuse. She is accusing Vince McMahon of coercing her into a sexual relationship, sharing sexually explicit photos and videos of her with male colleagues, and subjecting her to increasingly depraved sexual demands that included sexual encounters with John Laurinaitis and others. The WWE organization is well aware of Mr. McMahon's history of depraved behavior, and it's time that they take responsibility for the misconduct of its leadership, says Grant's attorney. Grant is seeking unspecified monetary damages and to have the court void a $3 million non-disclosure agreement, of which she alleges she received only $1 million. In 2022, Vince McMahon temporarily resigned from the role he then held with the WWE following a Wall Street Journal report detailing millions in so-called hush money allegedly paid out to keep secret allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity. A subsequent investigation by the WWE's board found that over 16 years, he had spent $14.6 million in payments to women who had accused him of sexual misconduct, the New York Times reports. A second internal investigation revealed an additional $5 million paid to 2 women. McMahon, for his part, denied that any interactions he had were non-consensual. Now, Vince McMahon was also accused of sexually assaulting a Florida tanning salon employee in 2006. He was arrested by Boca Raton police and charged with sexual battery, but prosecutors declined to move forward with the case, the Daily Beast reported in 2018. Despite the multiple scandals, McMahon, who owned the bulk of the WWE shares, returned to the company in 2023, where he was seemingly re-embraced by Johnson and others, including influential Hollywood figure Air Emanuel. Emanuel's company Endeavor merged with the WWE in 2023. The new parent organization, known as TKO, named Vince McMahon its executive chairman. Grant accused Vince McMahon of multiple 2021 assaults, said he coerced her into relations with other company executives, and alleged that he shared revealing photos and videos of Grant with other staffers, among other claims. The full filing, which details Grant's claims in graphic detail, is available online. And this is what Vince McMahon is allegedly being reported to have done to this poor woman. I'm going to give you a brief recap of everything that is in the report. So here is a complete recap of it. After her family passed away, Mrs. Grant dedicated herself to finding gainful employment. Neighbors in her building provided career advice and sought her assistance with personal events. Miss Grant used these non-paying roles and volunteer work in community initiatives to build her resume. The building resident manager wanted to help. She messaged Vince McMahon to ask whether he would talk to her, sharing that Mrs. Grant had been through hardship and would do great things if given a fresh start. Vince McMahon enthusiastically responded, "Hell yes." McMahon befriended Mrs. Grant, giving her hopes of a new life with promises of a yet-to-be-determined role at WWE, and showering her with attention and assurances, along with gifts like a VIP experience at WrestleMania. But what seemed like a dream in the spring of 2019 quickly became a nightmare. As McMahon dangled career-making and life-changing promises in front of Mrs. Grant, he demonstrated an increasing lack of boundaries. During several meetings that were ostensibly about a potential job at WWE, he greeted her in his underwear, touched her repeatedly, asked for hugs, and spent hours sharing intimate details about his personal life. McMahon warned Miss Grant to keep their closeness secret, lest rumors led to public trouble, and added that while he protects loyal people, he had world-class legal resources on speed dial to deal with people who have become a problem. As such, when McMahon pushed Miss Grant for a physical relationship in return for long-promised employment at WWE, she felt trapped in an impossible situation, submitting to McMahon's sexual demands or face ruin. Miss Grant feared she had everything to lose and faced negative consequences no matter what happened. After succumbing to the pressure for a physical relationship, Miss Grant was slotted into an entry-level position as an admin coordinator, a position McMahon created for her in WWE's legal department. Miss Grant worked in that role on June 17, 2019. Miss Grant remained in that role with the exception of a temporary relocation to the Extreme Football League, XFL, until McMahon verbally directed her to transfer to the Talent Relations Department, reporting to defendant John Laurinaitis on March 9th, 2021. During a conversation the same day, Vince McMahon explained that her presence in the legal department was effectively delaying efforts to hire a new general counsel for the company. McMahon and Laurinaitis informed Miss Grant she would be promoted to vice president of operations in the talent relations department, providing her with the organizational chart reflecting this decision. Shortly thereafter, they informed her they needed her to begin at a lower level as a director, but promised her promotion to vice president after a 12-month period. Despite Miss Grant's expressions of unhappiness and attempts to end the sexual relationship, and while she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment, she had no idea how sordid it would become, nor how the psychological torture and physical violence would leave her feeling hopeless, isolated, and trapped. In March of 2020, Vince McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Miss Grant, including pornographic content he recorded with other men, both inside and outside the company, including with members of the television production tech team, executives, producers, and a world-famous athlete and a former UFC heavyweight champion with whom WWE was actively trying to sign to a new contract and ultimately did sign that contract, and that is none other than Brock Lesnar. Specifically, while McMahon was CEO of WWE and Miss Grant was employed as an entry-level coordinator in the legal department, McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Miss Grant and or with the two of them directed Miss Grant to visit defendant Laurinaitis prior to the start of work days for sexual encounters, and expected and directed Miss Grant to engage in sexual activity at the WWE headquarters, even during working hours. All this time, McMahon ordered Mrs. Grant to keep their relationship secret unless otherwise instructed, including lying to maintain whatever cover stories he fabricated. McMahon's assurances that Miss Grant was safe and independent ring hollow in light of his efforts to isolate her from friends and attempts to chip away at her identity until it was replaced with his desired role for her as his bitch, his fantasy, and or his porn star, while occasionally intermixing softer descriptors like girlfriend and baby, even love when convenient. He exercised complete ownership and control over both her personal and professional lives. Now, this is really disgusting. Vince McMahon also subjected Miss Grant to acts of extreme cruelty and degradation that caused Miss Grant to disassociate and or become numb to reality in order to survive the horrific encounters. One example of McMahon's extreme depravity took place on May 9th, 2020. He defecated, he took a shit on Miss Grant during a threesome and then commanded her to continue pleasuring his friend, with feces in her hair and running down her back, while McMahon went to the bathroom to shower off. Upon his return from the bathroom, McMahon and his friend actively resumed the threesome, which lasted over an hour and a half, while Mrs. Grant remained covered in McMahon's filth. When McMahon's friend left, McMahon ordered her to stay and to continue to sexually gratify him. In June of 2021, McMahon and defendant John Laurinaitis sexually assaulted Miss Grant inside Laurinaitis' office in WWE headquarters while colleagues were busy at their desks. Behind the locked door, the two men cornered her and pulled her in between them, forcibly touched her before ultimately putting her on top of a table in between them. She begged them to stop, but they forced themselves on her, each taking turns restraining her for the other, while saying no means yes and take it, bitch. In January 2022, McMahon told Miss Grant that his wife, Linda, had found out about their relationship. Purportedly to avoid divorce, negative publicity, and other repercussions, McMahon said that Mrs. Grant's time at WWE was at an end, but that he wanted her to sign an NDA to ensure her silence on, among other things, his personal misconduct. In the days ahead, McMahon put Miss Grant under immense pressure to sign, saying that refusing would not only jeopardize McMahon, his family, and the company, but that she'd surely become a public headline, suffer reputational ruin, including from the pornographic content McMahon had captured, and face McMahon's legal resources. Conversely, McMahon reassured her that her signature would ensure his continued support and protection and safeguard her reputation. Miss Grant succumbed to the pressure and signed the NDA in exchange for payments, which McMahon later stopped making. Even after pushing Miss Grant out of the company and muzzling her with the NDA, McMahon continued efforts to exploit her, including attempting to traffic her to a WWE superstar who would be in New York City for a live event and TV taping in March 2022. Understandably, defendant's predatory contact has left Miss Grant crippled, both physically and mentally, including from debilitating symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and suicidal ideation. Despite McMahon's promise of reputational protection, WWE appears to have leaked information that led to the public disclosure of her name by a media blogger who cited a source in WWE with direct knowledge of the situation, which upon information and belief was an overt imitation tactic aimed at Mrs. Grant. Now, here is the role Brock Lesnar played in this. He is disgusting too. Brock Lesnar set a play date and he wanted to have a sexual encounter with Mrs. Grant. However, a snowstorm changed WWE superstars' travel plans, and Mrs. Grant ultimately used the weather and COVID-19 as an excuse to back out. It all makes sense now. It all makes sense why Brock was all smiles when he returned at SummerSlam and he returned for WrestleMania 2022. He got a lengthy contract and he got to fulfill his sexual needs with the innocent woman. He is just as bad as Vince McMahon in my eyes, and he even went as far as to say a disgusting thing like he likes to watch women urinate, which is absolutely disgusting. John Laurinaitis is also involved in this for having sex with Mrs. Grant with that disgusting voice of his. Ugh. So here is Vince's reaction to this scandal. Here is Vince's reaction, and I quote, "I stand by my prior statement that Mrs. Grant's lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and is a vindictive distortion of the truth," he said in the statement. "I intend to vigorously defend myself against these baseless accusations and look forward to clearing my name." And that is the Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and Brock Lesnar sex scandal. It is absolutely, completely disgusting, and it is horrific what Mrs. Grant had to go through. If it really did happen, which I really do believe at this point it did, then WWE and TKO did the right thing by getting rid of Vince McMahon. He belongs in hell for what he has done to this poor woman. It is absolutely disgusting. So, what do you think of the Vince McMahon disgusting and disgraceful sex scandal? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Real Alex Cardinale. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching.